Vodacom recently hit a new all-time high. Today I see it's number 2 in the top 40 at 66 Rand 53, closing 1 1/3% higher. The stock is moving strongly higher. Have you got exposure?
We have limited exposure at this side. I think there is clearly a hunt for yield on at the moment, particularly with the interest rate cut that we had over the last fortnight, because Vodacom is in its cash cow stage, the business is fairly mature, there isn't a large requirement for capital, the cash flow from the business is pretty robust, and that's increasingly finding its way back to shareholders, and I think a lot of investors are attracted to it for that matter.
Retail sales coming out better than the market expected for July. Obviously that is a historical number, but we've got the retailers and banks reacting negatively. I'm not sure if it's specifically to that data. We've got Pick n Pay at the bottom of the top 40, down 2 2/3%. They wouldn't really be taking much cognizance of a historical number, would they?
No, I don't think the retailers traded off on the back of that. The only particular news to South Africa today was Morgan Stanley just saying that as a country they're going underweight South Africa from equal weight, and saying that they expect our currency, I think, to weaken by about 10%. But I think if one looks largely across the retail space, excluding the food retailers that you mentioned earlier on, most of them are pretty much at 12-month highs or at 12-month highs. Mr. Price over 50 Rand, Fashini also very strong. So we've seen very strong performance from those companies, and I think we're at the situation where the debt, the cost to service debt is increasingly becoming low for consumers. Wage negotiations have been higher than inflation, and that's increasingly given retailers more cash than people anticipated, and that's seen the share prices of those companies move a lot higher. You
must have heard the rumour circulating at the moment that RMBH is in play. We're down 1% on RMBH today, 35 Rand 40. Is this an interesting story with upside potential?
I think it's been on the cards for a number of years, and arguably the shareholding structure of that business would probably make it the easiest target. I was surprised when both Standard Chartered and HSBC were mooted to be in discussions with Nedbank, because to my mind, First Rand RMH
would be a better play.
Yeah.
On that note, last night I was asked what we should be doing with Nedbank, given the fact that HSBC Nedbank may take some time to unfold if it does ultimately come to fruition. What would you be doing with Nedbank shares if you were a holder at the moment?
I think if you're a holder, you're probably a little bit nervous, because if they walk away, the share price might come under a little bit of pressure. But if a bid is tabled, I think it would be quite conceivably that it would be done at about 1.8 times book, and that could easily see the share ratchet up to about 160 Rand a share. So I think if one sold out, you would be missing out a little bit.
I've got one more question, and that is on Naspers. News out recently that they had bought a controlling stake in Multiply. Now that is a US online shopping site and social network at the same time. Largely, the strategy around Naspers has been into emerging markets. Isn't this a little of a surprise that they're now jumping into the US environment, where not many South African companies have a strong track record, as we know?
Yeah, and Naspers included. They took a little bit of a hiding about 8 years ago there. I think there must obviously, I haven't looked at the details of the transaction, but there must be some strategic rationale for it. But in the overall scheme of things for Naspers, it's pretty small.